One of the speakers welcomed at the St. Thomas Freedom Rally over the weekend was Professor Salim Mansur. He's an academic turned journalist turned political candidate who fled Calcutta in 1971 under the intense Indo-Pakistani War, where militant dictatorship led to genocide. I'm under the impression that we should heed his warning. I'm Tamara Ugolini with Rebel News, and I had a chance to catch up with Salim again over the weekend at the Freedom Rally for a one-on-one chat.
And my first vote was for Pierre Elliott, that means for the Liberal Party. What changed? Well, what changed immediately after was the whole question when Pierre Trudeau took his famous walk in the snow on the leap year, February 29, 1984. And then as politics drifted away, I was in Ottawa at that time, and I thought about where we are as a country, and I said that it's time for me to look seriously into the opposition, and I voted for the opposition in that sense, the Conservative, the Progressive Conservative Party, because it was good to have that balance. You know, the Liberals had run the country for almost, donkey years and moved to the Conservative. But then what changed everything else was the Meech Lake debate. So I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty, but the Meech Lake debate was the beginning of the change. And ironically, again, Pierre Trudeau stood for one law for all people. No, if you remember the Meech Lake debate, it was about the distinct society status for Quebec. And I felt that we'll end up as a country with two different systems, two laws, a special status, a distinct society, etc., etc. And I voted for one Canada.
And then, you became involved in the Progressive Conservative Party, and up until 2-3 years ago, you were removed from the Conservative Party under Scheer. And so now that O'Toole is the leader of the Conservative Party, do you see that you may make amends there? Will you be rejoining the party?
No, I came into politics through the Reform, and then the Reform Party moved towards Unite the Right movement and the merger that took place between the Progressive Conservative that was reduced to 2 members only after the 1993 election, and the Reform Party. And I was involved in that campaign, and I did my share of bringing about that Unite the Right movement. So in that sense, I was a member of the Conservative Party through that process until Andrew Scheer and his national campaign director, Hamish Marshall, decided to expel me from the party last year. That was in 2019, just before the election of October. I was seeking the nomination in London North Centre for the Conservative Party, and they expelled me on the basis that my writing, my views in public, my stand on the issues of Islamism made me an Islamophobe, and that was the reason that they expelled me. And I joined in the sense Maxime had already established the People's Party, and he invited me to join him, and I joined him. I knew Maxime during the time that Maxime was in the Conservative Party. He was a member of the cabinet, so that's the past. And I joined Maxime, and I am with the PPC. I stand for the issues that PPC stands for. And I don't think going back is any answer anymore, because from my perspective and the perspective, I think, of many Canadians, the parties represented in the Parliament in Ottawa are all globalist parties. In that sense, they all stand for globalism. They all support the UN agenda. They all exactly right now what is happening with COVID and masking and everything surrounding what basically is a Wuhan flu that I would keep calling, and all the 4 parties in the Parliament, the Liberal, the Conservative, the NDP, and the Green are all globalists in that sense.
I want to confirm that you're not, by denouncing radical Islam or Islamism, that's not inherently Islamophobic. And can you differentiate those two terms and not to oversimplify the issue, but in a simple way for the Rebel viewers, how denouncing radical Islam is not Islamophobic.
Yes, I mean, to engage in discussion, even to engage in discussion of Islam is not Islamophobic. I mean, I'm a Muslim by birth. I haven't disavowed Islam or my faith tradition, but the people who are radical Muslim, that is the people who support Muslim Brotherhood worldwide and right here in Canada, people who are, by the way, sitting in the parliament. We are not talking about some abstraction. People who are sitting in the parliament of Muslim faith are either directly complicit with Muslim Brotherhood or are in many ways sympathetic and apologetic about Muslim Brotherhood, and they are members of the Liberal Party, But this whole notion of Islamophobia is a narrative that has been constructed. There is no basis. I mean, Islam or Christianity or Buddhism, Judaism or anything is open to critical discussion. Who says that you cannot engage in a critical discussion about it? And because everything that has history, what we mean by critical discussion is we're discussing its history. The only thing that is above and beyond critical discussion is something that has no history. So there is a history of Islam in the world as a universal religion, and there is a history within the Muslim world of a very hard contest going on in whose understanding of Islam that we, the Muslim, should embrace or follow. The Muslim Brotherhood is massively rejected by a majority of Muslims around the Muslim world in countries like Egypt, Bangladesh, and other countries, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is not a Muslim majority country, but Egypt certainly is. It's the largest and most important Arab country. Bangladesh is one of the largest populated country in terms of Muslims. Gulf states that are now recently signed peace treaties with Israel, like the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain. These countries have banned Muslim Brotherhood, and here we have the Prime Minister of Canada in full embrace of Muslim Brotherhood. That is what our Prime Minister should be answering, not me. So either, he's the one who is in full embrace of an ideology. Muslim Brotherhood is an ideology, radical Islamism is an ideology of jihad, of Sharia, that he is in full embrace of it, and that his government, which passed the motion 103 to say that anybody who engages in a discussion of Islam, whether it's me, Salim Mansur, or whether it's you or the rebel media, are engaging in Islamophobia, is a lot of balderdash. If anyone is guilty about anything, it is the Prime Minister of Canada and all the political leaders, going back to Andrew Scheer or Erin O'Toole or Jagmeet Singh or the Green Party. They are the ones who have to answer why they are standing with the Muslim Brotherhood, when a great many countries in the Muslim world have basically declared the Muslim Brotherhood, anything associated with the Muslim Brotherhood, as a radical party, or there's a word, more importantly, a party that is engaged in violence, and therefore they have been a criminal party. I'm lost for a word right now, but people engaged with Muslim Brotherhood are criminals. They're not simply citizens.
What can we do as Canadians to start to either let people know that this infiltration is happening in the Canadian, and has been happening for quite some time, in the Canadian political system, and how can we curb it and promote democratic debate, dissenting voice?
That the Canadian people demand of our media that we, the Canadian people, pay through our taxes, do what rebel media is doing. That's what has to be done. You see, you are the only one, that is, the rebel is the only media that runs on the basis of people making free contribution. But I have no choice. my money, my tax money is going to CBC. If anything, either CBC start following the rebel media or get defunded so that I don't have to pay my tax to CBC but give it to you, the rebel media.
Well, that would be wonderful. But we also like to pride on not being funded by the state. We're not a state broadcaster. On that topic, where we see unprecedented censorship happening on all media platforms, social media, across the board, censorship and freedom of speech is unlike anything I've ever experienced in my lifetime. And I'm hoping that you can comment and give your opinion on what you think that means for us here in Canada, facing the landscape we face now today.
Yeah, I mean, we, Canada, unlike the United States, we don't have a First Amendment. So even though the Charter of Rights and Freedom talks about our freedom and freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, but we don't have freedom rights. And as our Supreme Court have said, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Beverly McLachlan, said that in Canada there is, in effect, no free speech. There are limits to free speech. Once you say there is limit to free speech, that there is a but, that means there is no free speech. So the fact of the matter is, and again, too many Canadians are not aware of this, that is our reality. We do not have a First Amendment right. We do not have the right to speak freely without any constraint, any abridgment, any limitation. Speak, write, produce words and action. No, I mean, this whole argument that, speech that offends somebody or somebody takes offense will therefore be censored makes absolute nonsense of free speech. There is no right anywhere in the world, the right not to be offended. So this whole argument that Islamophobia, Motion 103, is based upon the argument that, that some people can take offense. That is the whole issue about the Danish cartoon, and what happened in France with the Charlie Hebdo. I speak as a Muslim over here. You don't like to hear or see certain thing, switch it off. Nobody's pushing it down your throat, your eyes, or your ears.
What does the future look like for Canadians? What does the future hold for you, Salim?
Future on the issue that we are talking about looks very bleak. I mean, here again, we are on Freedom Rally. This is the Remembrance Day of the week of Remembrance Day, 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. Can you imagine the people who responded to the call to go and defend freedom and went across the ocean and put their lives on the line? If they were walking with us today, what would they be saying to us? They would be saying to us, this is not what we put our lives on the line for. But this is where we arrived in 75 years. The very things that our people fought for are the very thing that we are seeing being taken away from us, or we are handing it over to the government. It is not that the government needs freedom of speech, it's the people. The Charter of Rights is for the people. The Constitution is for the people, not for the government. It is to limit the government. But what is happening and has happened is the government using our Constitution to limit us.
The reversal of roles.
Exactly. We are living in an Orwellian world.
It's very concerning. Do you have any final thoughts for our Rebel viewers, Salim, or anything that we didn't touch on here?
My final thoughts for Rebel viewers and for Ezra Levant is keep going strong, remain strong, and keep growing. Keep growing. You are our voice, the voices of the people in Canada, that where you reach out, at least we know that you're going to uncensor us. You're not going to censor us, and you will broadcast what the common Canadian man and woman is thinking.
Salim is right. We must continue to engage in critical discussion. And as he says, we need history to be able to do that. It's only through these critical discussions that we can have a balance in politics. Under the Liberal government, however, we seem to have had the most divided and torn country perhaps ever. When Salim was expelled from the Conservative Party for denouncing radical Islam, it clearly shows that there is a need, at least in the Canadian political system, for respectful, democratic debate and to honor the opinions and experiences of those who have lived in dictatorships where there is no room for questioning or public inquiry. A theme that we're seeing right now here in Canada as the alleged global pandemic continues. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Salim calls it like it is. He recognizes how important independent press is in wake of the state broadcasters like government-funded CBC, BBC, and ABC. If you'd like to support our efforts and get more premium content that includes exclusive interviews, head on over to rebelnewsplus.com and subscribe today. That's rebelnewsplus.com.